There once was a woman whose entire idea of happiness and self-worth and value came from what other people said about her and to her. She thought that if someone said, oh, you're great, and you did well with that, that was fantastic, or you look nice, like that was what would make her happy. And she also felt the opposite, which was if somebody didn't say those things and didn't tell her that she was nice and didn't say anything at all about what she had done for her work and that maybe she was not valuable and she wasn't worthy, right? And she would feel unhappy. And she spent her life trying to pursue that happiness, right? She would get in her work, in her job, she would get out there and stick her hand up for the extra project and stay late for the extra work and be up all night to do the presentation and take the emails in the middle of the night and take the conference calls, right? Slowly burning her energy until she literally had none. And family and friends started to notice this, right? They would say, so you're not around, you're not available, you seem stressed out. And she started to notice too, like the pants started to get a little too tight and the skin started to break out and she felt stressed and basically she felt unhappy, right? This was the opposite of what was supposed to be happening. She was chasing happiness and yet she felt unhappy. Does this resonate with any of you? Yes? Hello? Yeah, so she was doing what she felt she had to do, not what she wanted to do, and she was feeling the opposite of what she wanted to feel. So fortunately for this woman, a gift kind of fell in her lap. One day, the woman who owned the yoga studio that she used to go to came to her and said, I'm thinking of selling this studio, would you be interested in buying? And she hadn't really thought about that before, and she said, well, maybe, and she took a look, and ultimately she decided to buy the studio. And then very soon after that, some really interesting things started to happen. People would come to her and say, yoga and this studio have changed my life. And she'd say, well, what do you mean by that? They would say, well, I'm less stressed. I have better relationships. I'm happier. And so this woman started to think, well, maybe her idea of happiness was wrong. Maybe it wasn't about coming from the outside, right? Maybe it had to do with coming from the inside, some physical, mental, spiritual wellness. In fact, maybe the truth was that happiness was something that only she could control. And of course, by she, I mean I. And so I began to dig into why this was happening. And I did some research and reading and listening and read the work of neuroscientists and psychologists, psychiatrists, religious leaders, philosophers. There are a lot of people who are trying to understand, how do we get happy? And for many of you, I bet you're in a similar position, right? You feel successful, like things are going well in your career, your life. Maybe things are well at home, but there's still this talk track in your brain that leads you to say, I'm stressed, I'm overworked, I'm not happy, even though I have all of this stuff, right? So I'm here tonight to tell you that you are in charge of your own happiness. Not your boss, not your yoga teacher, not your friends, your family, your dog, right? Just you. You're the one in charge of your happiness. And I'm here tonight to give you 6 tools that you can practically apply immediately to your life to take charge of your own happiness. Does that sound good? All right. So this is, as I said, it's going to be a really interactive discussion. So first of all, you're going to need that pen and paper. So if you don't have one, some people can share some of the pen and paper, and there's some extra pens up front. Second of all, at a couple of points throughout this evening, I'm going to ask you to stand up, or one or more people to stand up and actually share what you are experiencing as part of the discussion. So get ready for that. And then finally, you're going to need a partner. So preferably a partner with somebody you don't know or don't know that well. And if we are an odd number, just group as 3, that works fine. Because we'll share a few things together. Because all of these tools that we're about to learn work better when you integrate them by experiencing them, both for yourself and with others. Okay? So, find your partner now, right away. Take a look, find the partner, lock them in the eye, right? Okay. And here's what you're going to do. The first thing you're going to do is you are going to introduce, very simply, your partner to yourself to your partner with these three things. First, your full name. So first, middle, last name. I think you guys know each other. You need to switch. First, middle, last name. Maybe someone over here will jump up and take your spot. First, middle, last name. Date of birth, so month and day. And then your favorite flavor of ice cream. Okay? So first, middle, last name, month and day of birth, favorite flavor of ice cream, go.
Melissa Garland. All of
Kelly.
Okay, so after you introduce yourself, bring your eyes back up here. Okay, bring your attention back up here if you would.
So how many of you found you had something in common with the person you introduced yourself to? Yes? Good? Okay. How many of you found you had a good time introducing yourself to somebody new? Raise your level of happiness a little bit, right? Okay. Do you find it surprising that it makes you happy to talk to strangers? A lot of us do, right? A lot of us think that strangers don't want to talk to us, and if I talk to strangers, I will, be unhappy about it, right? It'll be scary. It'll be not fun, right? But you've just demonstrated my first tool, which is talking to strangers creates happiness. This was tested by some research out of Chicago, researchers out of the Chicago Booth School of Business and UC Berkeley, who put a bunch of people on a bus and on a train and asked them to do one of two things: either engage in a conversation with a stranger next to you, or don't talk at all, right? And they asked them to predict how they felt they would feel in those two scenarios. And without exception, people would say, I'll be much happier not talking, much happier. And then invariably, when the research study was over, the ones who actually talked to the person next to them on the train had a better time on their commute. And they've repeated this study many times. So it's not really surprising, right? We're social creatures. We're happier, we're healthier when we talk, when we engage with other humans. And in fact, loneliness, isolation is so physically damaging as to be on a level with smoking and obesity, right? So what's the takeaway? Do this. Talk to people. Meet strangers. Next time you're riding the chairlift, talk to the person next to you. Next time you're in the grocery store, say hello to the person in the line, right? It will make you happier. And here's the thing. You're going to repeat this enough that eventually it will become the kind of thing that doesn't feel weird and awkward all the time. It'll start to be something that you look forward to doing, and it'll raise your happiness level just a bit, yeah? So now we're going to look, that was something that was looking at like a rewiring tool, right? As you begin to do more of this, you begin to rewire the way your brain thinks. So we're going to look at another rewiring tool next, one that will transform the sense of who you are. So perception is reality, right? We all know what you see is what you believe. I see two people here. And it doesn't matter what you say, because that's what I see and that's my reality, right? And the thing is, the idea of perception is reality actually applies to how we see ourselves, right? How you perceive yourself is your reality about who you are, right? So if you perceive yourself to be shy, if you perceive yourself to be fat, right? It doesn't matter what someone else says to you. No, you're not. You're great. It doesn't matter because it's already in your head as your reality. And here's the thing, that whole concept of the perception of who you are is a habit, right? It's something that's been ingrained in your mind. And habits are something that have a habit structure, right? This is work by Charles Duhigg, who talks about the concept of the power of habits and this structure called the habit loop, right? It starts with a cue, something that happens, it triggers a certain action, a routine that you then follow, right? And then a reward. And sometimes that cue, routine, reward is just really bizarre. Like the whole idea of saying, well, you know, you're fat, right? The cue will come from putting on that pair of clothes that you think, oh, I don't like, and that routine is this whole little mini depression that you fall into, and then the reward, which isn't really a reward at all, is you backing out, sometimes going to get another piece of chocolate, right? And you've created the cycle that rinses and repeats. So what we know about habits and these mental models that we live in is that not only do we have to break them, but we have to replace them with a new one. So what we want to do in this second tool is create a new mental model, a new story about who you are, so that you're not riding a loop that makes you feel bad. So what we call this is a personal declaration statement. Those of you who've taken yoga teacher training will know what I'm talking about. What is a personal declaration statement? It's a statement of truth of who you want to be brought to the present tense. So my story, for example, it has been for a long time that I'm a follower. I'm not a leader. I'll never be the one who, you know, takes the stage. I'll never be the one who makes anything happen. This is just the thing that's in my head, and it doesn't matter that I could tell my friends this and they would basically laugh at me, right? That's absurd. Why do you think that about yourself? That's not true. It doesn't matter because I have this sense of perception and reality in my head. So as I began to work on this concept, I began to think, okay, well, what is my personal declaration? And it came to me, actually, this is a little embarrassing. It came to me once when I was getting changed recently, and it came to me, it's like it's such a rapid moment that I stood up in front of the mirror naked and I said, I am a creator. I give powerful tools that transform people's lives, and I help others by helping myself. And now you don't have to be naked to make this personal declaration, right? But I am suggesting there's something powerful about standing up in your birthday suit and declaring who you are. So you might want to give it a try. But here's the thing. What are the results of saying, I am a creator? I've been saying this to myself, right? I have been repeating it at times when I am feeling down or when I'm sort of thinking, oh, God, what am I doing with it? Like, this is not the right direction. I'm a creator. I give powerful tools that transform people's lives. I help others by helping myself. It just puts me in a place where I think, okay, yeah, no, I can do that, right? That's who I am. It's not who I want to be someday. It's who I am now. So it changes my actions and my sense of self and happiness in the moment. And these words, they may have different meanings for you, and that doesn't really matter. These words are words that matter for me, right? So you will need to identify the words that matter for you. And the thing I really want to state for you here is that if you've heard of this idea of declarations before, sometimes people think of it as a bit of woo-woo, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to say things like, I am a lottery winner, and then $1 million will fall from the sky, right? This is not what this is about. This is not about saying that if you say, I am CEO, that suddenly someone will phone you with a job. What it's saying is that if you declare who you are now, your mind will become open to the possibilities, and your actions and your behaviors will help you move in the direction that you want to go. Yeah? So, what I want to ask you to do now is take out your pen and paper, okay? Start with I am, and in the present tense, write down what you think your personal declaration statement might be. And by the way, this can be difficult to do. Like it may take some time to work at it. So if you don't have it immediately to hand, don't worry. Maybe make some notes about what you know that negative talk track is in your head, right? Where is it that you tend to say negative things about yourself? And maybe make notes about that so you can work on it later. So just take a minute or two to write down your sense of your personal declaration statement. And as you feel you come to some sense of conclusion, you can just put your pen down so I know you're finished. Okay, so here's where we start with the sharing. So I'd like to ask two people to stand up, one at a time, stand up and tell me, share if you would with the group, your personal declaration statement, which again, it might not be final, it might not yet feel like, you know, your final statement, your birthday suit statement, but it might be close, right? So if you would, stand up, share what that statement was, how, why you chose that statement, and then what's possible now that it's present in your life. So would anybody be willing to share? My sharers who know how to share. And particularly those, please, Chris, that would be great. Thank you. Yes, please. Yeah.
My name is Chris, and my statement is, I follow through with any endeavor I begin. I have grit to finish whatever I start, which is basically the same thing, saying it twice. And the reason that I chose that statement is I've always felt that I don't follow through. After we read the grit book during our teacher training, and I really struggled with that and felt that I'm inconsistent and I don't follow through with that. But things have changed.
What's possible now?
Everything's possible now. Like I'm moving forward.
That's amazing.
But anyways, this isn't a statement that I had done during the teacher training, and now I think that it's a good. It's becoming reality. Declaration.
Oh, good for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can everybody give her a round of applause for speaking? Thank you. Okay. Who else could share? Yes, thanks, Kelly.
Hey, I'm Kelly. I am a strong, powerful leader who creates happier, healthier communities. And I chose that because I struggled with that for a long time, to be a strong person who would stand here and talk in front of a group of people. And now I feel like I can do that, and within that, create happier, healthier communities for everyone to take with them as they leave any space that we're in together.
And how has it manifested in your life?
It has actually changed my life completely. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Totally different person. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Thanks, Kelly. Okay. All right, thank you everyone for sharing. So let's talk a little bit about mind-body connection. So we're all well aware that there's this thing, it's called your brain, and it manages the functions of your body. It makes your muscles work, it makes your heart pump, it does all that sort of good stuff, right? One of the newer aspects of research on mind-body connection is looking at how do your thoughts impact your physical body, right? A lot of us find that hard to believe. Is it actually possible that what I think, like what goes through my head, has some sort of impact on me physically, and certainly, psychologically as well, right? So take, for example, gratitude. Gratitude can be a personality trait, it can be a mood, it could be an emotion, but we know it's not a control system. It's not like there's a gratitude center and it makes my hand do this, or whatever, right? Or my hand do this, right? It's not a control center of the body. And yet, gratitude has both psychological and physical impacts on us, right? So the Greater Good Science Center in Berkeley, California did a study looking at all the research on gratitude in 2018. And what they found is that people who are more grateful sleep better. They have lower rates of heart disease. They also have lower rates of chronic illness like kidney disease, some cancers, and diabetes. Just gratitude. And so I want to jump right in and test this idea right here. So I want you all to sit up in the chair. You can set your paper on the floor or on your lap. Place your feet on the floor and close your eyes. Now, in your mind, say to yourself, I have to go to the store. I have to go to the store. I have to go to the store. Now, in your mind, say this phrase, I get to go to the store. I get to go to the store. I get to go to the store. Okay, open your eyes. How many of you felt a physical change in your body when you changed the word from have to get? Yeah? Well, you should see it from here. When you say have to, your shoulders slump, right? Right? You can hear it in my tone of voice. I have to, right? You can hear it in, like there's an attitude in your brain that's annoyance and irritation. I have to, all because of one word. And then when you say I get to, you all sit up a little straighter. You start to smile just a little bit. You're doing the same thing. You're going to the store. But in the latter case, it's an opportunity, not an obligation, right? So this is your third tool to rewire your brain from I have to I get to. See, I really love this one because we learn all the time about how important gratitude is. But I frequently find that this concept sounds great, but I have no idea what to do with it. How do I need to be more grateful. Okay. Well, what do I do? This is what you do. You change every have to get to. And I'm telling you, try it on for size. There are very few things in your life that aren't better with get to than have to, right? So every time you catch yourself, I have to go pick up my kid. I have to go to the grocery. I have to go to work. Change the script. I get to pick up my kid. I get to go to the store. I get to go to work. And why does this matter? I mean, why should you think I get to? I mean, the short answer to that is it's all going to end someday, right? Someday, you won't have to pick up the kid anymore because they'll have gone on to college. Some of us know what I'm talking about, right? Someday, you won't have to go to that job. Maybe it's a new job, or maybe you don't have to work anymore. You won't have to go to that job anymore. You won't get to go to that job anymore. And frankly, someday you won't get to go to the grocery. You won't need to. And I'm not trying to be morbid about this, right? I'm just trying to be factual. It's going to happen. Everything's going to end. And so when you start to take this perspective of get to, suddenly everything that's coming your way is that much more pleasant. It's that much more enjoyable. And I have people who take this idea and like husbands and wives who try to catch each other. Anytime I say it, you need to catch me. Oh, get to. Oh, because we do it out of habit, right? There's that habit loop again. So see if you can change that in your life every day. Every time you get up and somebody says, what are you doing? Well, I have to go. Get to go. Yeah? And see how it changes your sense of happiness in your day-to-day. So now, I'd like for you to take your pen and paper, write down 3 things that you know you generally say, I have to. Right? What are your just few that you normally put I have to next to? And then right next to that, write the same thing with I get to. Yeah, so take just a few seconds to do that. Cool. So after you've written those down, let's do that sharing thing again. Who else now could stand up and say, here are some things that I normally have to do that I recognize now I get to do? How does it make you feel to change the word? And what do you think is possible in your life when you get to do things rather than have to do them? Who's willing to stand up and say something? Rosemary. Good for you.
I get to get this out of the
There you go.
I have to set an alarm. I'm retired now. Oh, then I have to set an alarm. So I get to set an alarm.
Okay.
Which means I'll get much more out of my day.
Good.
I have to get gas. I get to get gas.
Yeah.
So I'm gratitude for having a car.
Yes.
To be able to put gas.
Yes.
And I have to clean my house.
Yes. Everyone's favorite.
My beautiful home.
That's amazing. How does it make you feel to have a get rather than a have in your life?
Just totally better.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's so fun to clean your house if you make it a fun thing.
There you go. But the concept of get to, does that resonate with you in terms of changing your sense of gratitude? Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Rosemary. Okay, who else can share? Please.
I'm Corey. I have to go to work. I get to go to work
Good.
because I love both my jobs very much. I have to drive my children somewhere.
Yeah.
I get to take my kids out. And I have to go to the store.
Yeah.
I get to go to the store.
Yeah, yeah. They're biggies, those 3. So how does it make you feel to change those words? What
Like,
feels
there are
possible?
opportunities, yes.
Yeah. What feels possible in your life if you were to change that phraseology in your life going forward?
Anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thanks, Corey. Okay. Yeah. And in fact, I need to point out this picture on my wall here is of a vase of flowers that was presented to me by Corey, who just stood up. And you may not be able to see, but on the vase is a word that says thankful. And Corey is someone who practices gratitude every day. You see it in her whenever you meet her. She's always upbeat and smiling, and she's figured out something about this gratitude thing, which I think we could all learn from, you know? So let's move on from here. And I want to go inward now, like here to the lungs, okay? Did you know that your lung capacity is about 6 liters of air on the average human? And when you breathe in and out, just sitting here breathing in and out, you'll take in about a liter at a time, so like 1/6 of your total capacity. And, you know, and the lungs are really quite amazing. So did you know that the average human has about 20 square feet of skin, but 1,000 square feet of lung tissue. And in those lungs, there are 1,500 miles of airways. Wrap your mind around that idea. And of course, we have to have this structure in order to get oxygen to the billions of cells in our bodies, right? And of course, the lungs work with the heart. The lungs fill little trucks with air, and the heart pushes them down the highways to the places where that oxygen needs to go. So of course, it makes sense that our heart activity and our lung activity work together, right? So what's the connection between heart and lung and happiness? Well, first I want to give a little bit more science. So you may be familiar with the two main nervous systems in the body, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is what is known as the fight or flight system. It's the one that prepares your body to react to stress. So it gets your muscles to contract, it gets your heart rate to go up, it sends stress hormones into your body, adrenaline and cortisol, so that all of those things will fire, right? Gets your respiratory rate up. The parasympathetic nervous system is known as the rest and digest system. It's the one that controls the functions of the body at rest, so it brings the heart rate down, respiratory rate down. So what do we know about lungs, heart, nervous systems, and happiness? What we know is that when the body is under stress and produces these stress hormones, and particularly when you're under a state of constant stress, not allowing those stress hormones to decline in the body, you end up with this constant state, right, of raised low-level stress, which results in higher risk of blood pressure, high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, weight gain, right? Because it doesn't convert the nutrients into, it converts nutrients into fat rather than burning them, right? Because the body is nervous. So what we know is that if we inhale and exhale, this will bring down the sympathetic nervous system response, okay? And just some slow, deep, steady breathing will help stave off stress responses. So right away, happier body, happier mind, right? By slowing things down and getting out of the fight or flight. But there's something else that deep breathing will do for you. It also keeps you present in the moment. We have this other mistaken idea about happiness. We tend to think, when I get X, then I'll be happy. Right? When I get the job, when I have the car, when I meet the perfect person, then I'll be happy. This image, why some pieces of wood, you ask? This is, the structure of this wood looks a lot like the table in my kitchen when I was growing up as a kid. And my father used to sit me down at this table, and he would put his finger right in one joint, and he would say, you know, Melissa, you tend to think that if I can just get up to this next point, then I'll be happy. And then you get there and you think, well, if I can just get up to that next point, then I'll be happy. And then you go to the next, here, Melissa, it's the journey. It's not the destination, right? And you know, you've all heard this. You know it to be true, but it's hard to live it, right? But it matters because there is only now. There's only now, and now, and now, and now. Do you know you get 685, roughly, million breaths in your life? And there goes another one. And there goes another one, right? Why not make them all happy, right? Why would you want to waste a single one of them? So this picture is of my dog, Mila. She's staring intently because I'm about to throw a ball that she wants to go catch, right? She is completely and utterly in the moment. What's more powerful than being present? And what's more happy than being right here, right now, right? Not waiting for the thing that's going to come to make you happy. instead to be present and in this moment. So, tool number 4 is breathing, to help bring your sympathetic nervous system down and to keep you in the moment, because the breath is always in the moment. So we're going to practice this now. So you're going to put your pad back down, you're going to put your feet on the floor, you can let your hands rest on your legs and close your eyes. So imagine that your lungs are divided into thirds. And what you're going to do is breathe in to fill just a third of your lungs. So breathe in now a third of the way and pause. And then breathe in to fill a third more and pause. And then breathe to full lung capacity and pause. And then open your mouth and exhale it out. Let's do that again. Breathe in a third of the way. Pause. A third more. Pause. Full lungs. Hold. Send it out. Last time. Fill your lungs a third of the way. And hold. Fill your lungs a third more. Hold here. Fill your lungs to max capacity. Really fill them up. Hold at the top. Open your mouth and send it out. Open your eyes. Do you feel the sympathetic nervous system calming down? Do you feel the parasympathetic nervous system that lets you rest? Right? The stress hormones go down. Can one person stand up and share how that breathing exercise makes you feel and how you might find something possible out of that in your life? Who's willing to stand up and say something? Come on, don't be chickens. Fight or flight, fight or flight. I can't stand up. Come on, there we go.
Actually, when I finished teacher training, I made myself this phrase. So this
Yeah.
is pause, breathe, and be bold. It's a combination of being in the present, breathing, and
Yeah.
part of my declaration as well. So,
So how does the breathing make you feel?
do anytime. It's just really like brings you to the present moment. And
Yes.
really allows you to do so calmly and feel good.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So breath and breathing, it's always now. That's the thing about the breath. That's why we use it as a tool. Your breath is never in the future. It's always right now. So one of the other great things about this breathing tool is that in addition to keeping you present and now and calming your nervous system, it's also a meditation tool, right? Helps you get focused. So now that we've calmed our sympathetic nervous system, we're going to go deep. We're going to go deep into human connection as a source of happiness. And you really only need to look at your own life, at your own family, to know that human connection is valuable and needed. Yeah. This is a picture of me, obviously, at the holidays this year. My husband is in the back, my mother behind me, and my uncle in front of me. And over the holidays, so both my mother and my uncle are recently solo. So my mother was widowed a year ago. My uncle is separated. And the one thing both of them spoke about more than once, like it was a really important and difficult thing for both of them over the holidays, was this lack of human connection in their lives, being on their own, right? This loneliness, right? So there's a ton of research on the importance of human connection, both for our physical and mental well-being and for the development of children. But one area that I find particularly interesting is in the increasing size of homes in today's more wealthy, ever increasing wealth of the average American household. We see an ever increasing size in houses, right? And alongside that, a decrease in the number of average people per family. So, did you know that in 1973, the average square footage per person in a house was about 500 square feet per person? 40 years later, 2015, the average square footage per person in the house was almost double, nearly 1,000 square feet per person. So, you know, this is nice, right? Now everyone has their own bedroom, and they probably have their own bathroom, and of course in these really wealthy houses we've all got our own TVs and we have our own playrooms, and guess what? Nobody has to get together and figure out what show should we watch tonight, because they can all go to their own rooms and watch whatever they watch, right? And the kids don't have to figure out how to get along sharing that room anymore or sharing the bathroom. They can just, you know, slam the door behind them and tell their brother to go away, right? They don't have to work it out. This, of course, is an example from my own house. Know from personal experience, right? It's luxurious, but it's also lonely. And also technology, our wonderful devices that give us access to so much, separate us as much as they connect us, right? You probably are very familiar with this reality. Why meet in person when I can call? Why call when I can text, right? Why meet with Johnny down the road when I can just meet him on Xbox on a game? Why should I play a game live when I can do it remotely? Heaven forbid I should have to put my shoes on and walk down the street, right? But of course we are missing this engagement, this human connection as a result. And not everything is bad about technology. I'm not slamming technology necessarily, but it does create as much distance as it creates connection. And physical connection is just simply not replicable via devices. So, for example, this is really interesting. Did you know that they've done research on people whose faces were rendered immobile through like the use of Botox? And when they look in the eyes of others and they are unable to replicate the expression on the person they're sitting across from, they're also unable to identify the emotion. They're unable to identify either positive or negative because they can't create the emotion on their own faces. Now, I learned about this recently. I was really horrified to learn about it, but I couldn't make the expression because I had just had Botox myself for the first time. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to go do it again for this reason, but it is something to think about, right? It's critical to be able to look and exchange expressions and mirror and empathize with people. And you can only do that in person. So we know we're being driven apart. We know we need to do more being with. And so we're going to practice this. So you will need to stand up now. And you will need to face your partner. And for those of you who have 3, maybe one person can just stand, because you'll need to do eye to eye with this one. So if anybody who cannot do it, can just take a seat, and we'll get you to do it another time. Or maybe, Corey, you've done this, so maybe Melissa could come over here with Chad, since Corey's done it before. Sorry. Okay. So you're going to face your partner. And so here's what you're going to do. 60 seconds of what we call be with, right? You're just going to look in the eyes of this person. So go ahead and start. As you do this, it'll be tempting to make funny faces and feel embarrassed, but don't worry about that. Just look in each other's eyes. Go. Great job. You can take a seat. It's the longest minute of your life, right? Sit down. Did anybody begin to feel a deeper connection with the person who you were, right? Yeah? Did anybody begin to feel at all emotional in that moment, like as you're looking in? Because that sometimes happens too. It can make either giggly or just kind of sad sometimes, sense comes up. So let's just really quickly, who hasn't shared, say something about how this made you feel and how it feels to connect with somebody at that level. Who can stand up and say something? Karen.
It felt great because I don't know Michelle at all.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. She had beautiful eyes, and I think, and it was I was going to burst into smile.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was looking at her. It was fun.
How does it make you feel to know that the possibility of connection with another human is out there for you, like this?
Oh, I enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Thanks, Karen. Who else can share what they experienced? Yeah, Melissa.
So it was very interesting because I've never met Chad, is that right? Yes. And, you tell these, constantly my mind was reeling, like, wonder what he's thinking at first, and then,
Yeah.
but then after a while I kind of calmed and thought, I have compassion for this person, as an individual that kind of brought us here, and
Fantastic.
it made you want to know more, and I'm never going to forget that face.
Right. That's so fantastic. What do you feel sort of possible in your life knowing that you can have access to that kind of connection with people?
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you. That's a wonderful observation. So, by the way, I know this tool isn't one that you can, use at home on your own, right? This isn't one of the takeaway tools, really. You could find somebody on the street and ask them to stand for 60 seconds and see how that goes. I'd love to know. But what I want you to take away from this is the idea of being focused on whomever you're with, right? Because the greatest gift that you can give to somebody is the gift of your attention, right? Think about it as the recipient, right? When somebody is, yeah, sure, whatever, right? It's not the same as I'm here with you. So practice, if not staring for 60 seconds, at least looking more deeply into the eyes of the people you are engaging with every day, and see what it does for your personal connections and therefore your sense of happiness. Yeah? There'll be questions and answers after the class. I'm on a timeline here, Jim. Okay. So far, we've met strangers. We've connected deeply with them. We've experienced a way to create more gratitude in our lives just by changing a phrase, right? We've calmed the fight or flight response and learned to be in the moment through our breath. We've created some personal declarations or the start of them to help us rewire our brains around happier stories for ourselves. So I've got one last tool for you. The one that I think will have the most lasting impact in your life. It's both the hardest one and the easiest one to do. So, do you notice in your life how quickly your subconscious can change your attitude at a given moment? Like, you wake up in the morning and you're happy, right? You feel well rested, and maybe you had a good dream, and so everything's kind of happy. And then all of a sudden, you think, oh, I have to go to that meeting with that person I don't like. And you go from being happy to being like in the blink of an eye, right? So we know that it's possible that our mind can shift and our moods and our attitudes can change literally in a second, in a nanosecond. The question is, can you control that? Is there anything that you can do to control the shifts in your personality, in your sense of happiness or not, right? So the Buddhist philosophy on this is quite interesting, and actually this book is one that we use a lot in our teacher training called happiness. And you can see this is the image of my copy of the book. It's well marked there. And this is the author, Matthew Ricard, who is a Tibetan Buddhist monk who wrote this book. But the philosophy of the Buddhists says that if you believe that the things out there, like the person you have to meet or the meeting that you have to go to, are in and of themselves negative, right? Are inherently negative. That person is a bad person. That meeting will be bad. It is a bad meeting, right? The new car I'm going to get will make me happy, right? If you have a sense that, and if you believe that these things out there make you happy or unhappy or are in and of themselves good or bad, then you misunderstand the true nature of reality. The Buddhists would say that everything out there is empty of meaning until you apply meaning to it. So in fact, one of the ways we talk about humans in the world of psychology is as meaning-making machines, right? As I walk through life, I'm constantly sort of saying, oh yeah, this is good, this is bad, this is... And all of these things are absolutely devoid of meaning until I apply meaning to them. Yeah? So the beautiful thing about that is that it means you can control how you experience the world around you. It's your choice as to whether that meeting is going to be a good meeting or a bad meeting. It's your choice as to whether or not that new pair of shoes is going to make you happy or unhappy, right? It has nothing to do with the people or the things out there. It's entirely your doing. And you can practice this and you can witness it. So we're going to do that now. This is our last exercise. So once again, pads down, feet down, long spine, hands on your lap. Close your eyes. Take a big breath in and a breath out. And I want you to imagine that you've just boarded a plane on your way to a strange city where you're going to take a new job. And as you sit on this plane, suddenly turbulence hits. And you look out the window and you see the wings of the plane rocking back and forth. And you start to feel worried and nervous about what's going to happen, like what could possibly happen on this plane. And then you start to notice that your chair is really uncomfortable and it's too small and your legs are cramped and your back is sore. And you start to have all these thoughts about how awful plane travel is. And you get really annoyed because the air hostess hasn't brought you your drink and she was supposed to bring it a while ago and it's taking her forever. And you start to think about this new job that you're going to and you're thinking, those people there are not going to appreciate me. They're not going to give me the good projects. Why did I ever make the decision to take this job? Now let's flip the script. You're on the plane. Turbulence starts. You think, this is a part of air travel, and I need to be aware that it's going to happen, and I need to appreciate every moment of my life. And though your seat is a little bit uncomfortable, you find ways to relieve the ache in your legs and in your back. And you feel grateful for the air stewardess who is very busy and has to stand the whole time, and here she's brought you exactly the drink you asked for. And you start to think about this new job, and you think you're excited about who you're going to meet and how they're going to be interesting and fun to work with. They're going to appreciate you and what you have to offer, and your experience at this new job is going to be amazing. And notice now the difference in your body and in your mind between those two different states, the pessimistic one and the optimistic one. Can you appreciate that they came about simply through the workings of your mind? The outer situation was exactly the same. So you can open your eyes. This exercise is kind of a twofold one. It's partly about sitting still and witnessing the nature of your mind. And this is what we call meditation. Many people think, there are many different types of meditation. One of the critical types of meditation is understanding the nature of your mind. And it's not until you sit still and watch the thoughts go through your head that you will begin to see that, in fact, you have control over what happens in your mind. So practicing that 15 minutes a day will change your life. But the second part of this exercise is the one that makes you aware of the fact that you can flip the script at any time. You literally, at any moment, when you find yourself going down, you can say, no, I don't need to see it that way. I can change it. I can see it this way, right? I can go from seeing a rainy day to seeing a sunny day, literally by changing your mind. And I find that I use the tools like my personal declaration. If I'm wake up in the morning and for some reason I'm not feeling, like today is happening, I'm like, I am a creator. Suddenly, right? And then I say, but I get to go to work. And I take a big deep breath, and these tools combine to flip the script. So pay attention to your mind. Notice the negative thoughts that go through them and change them. Deliberately shift them. And so we come to the end of our little evening. And really, there's just one lesson to everything that we've talked about. It all boils down to one thing. And it's a lesson that I learned from this man, my father. He always said, Melissa, happiness is an inside job. It's not out there with the work. It's not out there with the pay raises. It's not out there with the shoes and the parties and somebody else. Not even out there with your spouse or your kids. It's here. There are really three mistaken ideas about happiness that we've explored tonight. One is the mistaken idea that happiness is caused by somebody else or something else, right? The second one is the idea that it's in the future, that when it comes, then I'll be happy, right? And the third is your failure to recognize that those things out there are not in and of themselves negative, that in fact, it's all in here, that you get to see those things the way you want to see them, and you can change the story at any time. You are the only source of your happiness, no one else. And now you have real tools to use them, right? To use for your own happiness every day. You can connect with others by talking. You can go deep into the connections with them. You can declare your future to be now. You can find I get to in everything you do. You can breathe and live in the present moment. You can shift your perspective. You have to create your own happiness by changing your mind. The more you change your mind, the more you'll change your life. I've tossed in one last idea here that I know my dad would have loved. If it's human, it's mentionable. If it's mentionable, it's manageable. Don't forget that everything that's happening in your life is mentionable and therefore manageable. I hope you found these tools to be things that can help you manage your way to a really happy life in 2020. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming. I appreciate you and appreciate your time. Thank you, thank you. And by the way, if you want to go deeper on these happiness tools, we're going to Miami the end of February, and we're going to spend an hour and a half each day going deeper into these tools. So that's what's coming up. And actually, I am going to make this whole talk available for download on the website, along with 4 other tools that you'll be able to use. So that is it. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Well done.